Welcome to the Big Blue Breakdown. I'm Paul Dottino as we go over the New York Giants 34-25 preseason opening victory in Buffalo against the Buffalo Bills. Now, it's pretty easy to go right to the game balls in this one. Gassers are a little bit more difficult, but here's what I'd like to do first. I'd like to just go over some generic positives and negatives that I'm sure the coaching staff will see from this game. For example, the Giants had nearly 400 yards of total offense and put up 34 points. That's an impressive showing in the NFL, regardless of who's playing. Now, we know that the Giants and the Bills played all of their healthy starters, with the exception of Buffalo holding out quarterback Josh Allen. So it started out with Russell Wilson going against Mitchell Trubisky. Other than that, we're talking about all healthy starters playing. The Giants did scratch 14 players. The Bills scratched about a dozen players themselves. But we did see many regulars littered throughout the first quarter on both sides of the ball. The Giants' offense went 9 of 19 on third downs. That's an incredible 47% conversion rate, and 2 of 2 on fourth downs. They threw the ball, believe it or not, with their 4 quarterbacks 51 times and did not take a sack. The Giants were 2 for 2 in the red zone. They held Buffalo to 1 for 9 on third down conversions and 1 for 2 on fourth down tries. And last but not least, the Giants won the turnover battle. They did not commit any turnovers. Jameis Winston did throw a third quarter interception, but it was taken back on a penalty. So the Giants do result with no turnovers. They do get a fumble recovery late in the final couple of minutes of the game. So they turn up with a 1+1 turnover ratio. And you know they will take that every single time. Sign up, Coach Brian Dable, for +1 in the turnover battle each and every week during the regular season. Now, on the flip side of things, what is it that really is probably going to bother the coaching staff? Well, they ran the ball 25 times for only 79 yards. That is a 3.2 average per carry. The total yardage rushing and the average per rush will not make them very happy. First round rookie quarterback Jaxson Dart was the team's leading rusher. That's also not very good, carrying 3 times for 24 yards. The Giants got marked off for 10 penalties for 70 yards. That's not something that you'd want to see during the regular season. And they also gave up big play pass completions of 58 yards and 39 yards, to name the 2 most egregious completions during the course of the game. So there's a quick overview of some positives and negatives. But now let's get to our game balls and gassers. And to be honest with you, yes, the game balls were really pretty easy. On offense, well, we got to go to Jaxson Dart. 12 of 19 for 154 yards. A touchdown, led the Giants to 3 scores, the touchdown and 2 field goals on 4 offensive possessions in the first half. Early in the second quarter, he hit little Jordan Humphrey in the left corner of the end zone on a 28-yard touchdown strike that could not have been dropped in the bucket any more perfectly. Dart was in control. He seemed to have a very strong understanding about where the ball was going to go. Didn't see much confusion, if at all, in terms of the operation as he was taking the calls from offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, who was on the sideline, by the way, for this game. We also saw that he had a pretty darn good feel for the pocket, for when there was pressure. He did move around. Yes, he did take off on 3 running plays. And no, he did not slide feet first on any of those. That is something that he is going to have to learn, and learn very quickly. But Dart was accurate. He was confident, assertive, in control. Big day for Jaxson Dart. Now, I also just want to throw out kind of an honorable mention, because it is the preseason. I thought that Dante Turbo Miller had a sensational game as he competes to try to convince the Giants to keep 4 running backs on the 53. He clearly, in my opinion, would be the number 4 if they're going to keep 4. But it does appear like the Giants really want to make sure they enhance their special teams. And so that 4th running back is going to have to be a really good special teamer. Well, let's talk about this for just a second. Now, I know Miller was terrific in the receiving game, not so great in the rushing game yesterday, but there was really no room for him to run, and I don't think anyone could have done anything more with their 10 carries than the 22 yards that he got. He did squirt free for a 10-yard long, and in the receiving game, caught all 7 of his targets for 80 yards. He was particularly effective on the checkdowns and the screens. His speed is something that cannot be denied. It is obvious every time he gets the ball. And he looks as though his vision, his patience, and setting up blocks, all of those things are developing now that he is in his 2nd season after spending the most of his rookie campaign on the practice squad. Now, remember what I just said a minute ago? It's about special teams. Well, throw in that he had a 20-yard return on a kickoff, and the fact that he also was in on a special teams tackle. Those are very good signs for Dante Miller. And I also would like to throw out, I guess, 2 other honorable mentions, if I may. Little Jordan Humphrey, of course, catching the touchdown pass, the first ever professional touchdown pass that Jaxson Dart has thrown, albeit in a preseason game from 28 yards out. And Montrell Washington, the diminutive wide receiver and special teams player, caught 3 balls for 60 yards, including a long of 29. Now, again, on one hand, you say, well, modest numbers, right? But the explosive play for 29, very noticeable for Montrell Washington, the former Kansas City Chief, who seems to have a very good feel for when and where Jaxson Dart wants to throw the ball. I think he has inserted himself very well into the competition for what would potentially be the 6th wide receiver spot. Bo Collins had the best offseason of the guys fighting for that spot, but Bo Collins got dinged up over the last week, or nicked up, I should say, and was unavailable to impress anybody during week 1 of the preseason. If you're going to keep 6 wide receivers, that guy is also going to have to play special teams. And so Collins, because he was unavailable to perform in this preseason game, which of course is always going to get the most weight when it comes down to the coach's grades, he lost a little footing in that battle. And so you got to give some credit to Montrell Washington for being able to get out there and performing when the spotlight was on. Washington himself added an 8-yard punt return, and a 25-yard kickoff return to go to his resume off of this first game. We go to the defensive game balls, and, I get it. It was no Josh Allen. It was Mitch Trubisky. It was Mike White, the former Jets quarterback who came in for him in the third quarter. I understand. We're not talking about high-level competition there. James Cook holding out, starting star running back for the Buffalo Bills, holding in, I should say, because he is there, but he's not participating in anything, wanting a new contract. So I understand all of that, but as I did say, the Giants did have another first-round draft pick on the field. Besides Jaxson Dart, it's Abdul Carter, who played in the first quarter. Obviously would love to have had more snaps, but when he was in there, he was incredibly active, showed off his outstanding athleticism, very difficult to block, very, very quick in all of his movements, was constantly penetrating the line of scrimmage and getting into the backfield and helping to chase down plays. He was only credited with 1 assist. Did have a quarterback hit, which was a rock'em sock'em quarterback hit, a clean hit, I might add. And so as I look at the final defensive stats, just to confirm, well, they didn't actually give him credit for the quarterback hit. They should have. But he played extremely well. In fact, I'm not even, now as I recall, it might have even come back on a penalty somewhere else. But Carter certainly made his presence felt. He was impressive. And you have to believe that had he played more snaps, he would have increased his statistics line by many and many numbers. So we'll go there with Abdul Carter on defense. On special teams, Giants showed out well on special teams. But we're just going to make it simple and give the game ball to Graham Gano. Gano comes back late in the season last year, kicks very well. But of course, we all remember that it was the second season in a row that he had to battle injuries and miss a chunk of games. He's in great shape. He's worked incredibly hard. The Giants have been very happy with his work in training camp. And what does he do in yesterday's game? He connects on all 3 of his field goals that just happened to be from 50 yards or more. His second one hit the right upright and bounced through, but it did bounce through, so it counts. 3 for 3 for Graham Gano from 50 yards and longer. How can you complain about that? And really, I think that's what Graham Gano is proving. And he certainly enhanced it yesterday with an exclamation point. He's as good a kicker as there is in this league. And that includes from 50 yards and out. The only question for Graham Gano is, will he get hurt a 3rd year in a row? And that's a legitimate question. It's realistic. You can ask it. But he really is in terrific shape. And as long as he's kicking, there's no reason to doubt him. All right, so those are the game balls that we hand out. And yes, I should also mention, I don't want to cheat the guys because after all 4 Giants quarterbacks did play well. But we're still going to let Dart get the game ball. Russell Wilson started the game, went 6 of 7 for 28 yards, only had a long of 11, led the Giants onto a field goal in his only drive of the game. We then saw Jameis Winston play the third quarter, 7 of 11 for 62 yards and a touchdown pass. His long was 21. He did throw an interception right down the middle of the field. That was called back by a Buffalo penalty. And then Tommy DeVito. And let's not forget Tommy DeVito. Fourth quarter, 10 of 14 for 73 yards and a touchdown pass. in a game that had 4 lead changes in the second half. And DeVito did a fine job leading the Giants downfield. And I want to say, let's see here, 52-yard drive on 11 plays as Jude McAtamney, the Giants' other kicker, who is eligible, by the way, as an international exemption on the practice squad in his second pro season. McAtamney hits a 42-yard field goal. That gave the Giants what would be the final lead of the game at 27-25 with about 7 minutes left. And then, of course, after the Bills fumbled the ball away deep in their own territory, DeVito finished it off and iced the game with an 8-yard touchdown pass to running back Jonathan Ward, flaring out of the backfield to the right side, and he waltzed in untouched. That was only a 3-play, 14-yard drive, but with 2:11 left in the game, the Giants closed out the scoring at 34-25. Our Gassers. On offense, we go to the third tackle, James Hudson. With Andrew Thomas still on PUP, Hudson was the left tackle to start the game. And on the opening drive, Giants go 30 yards, 12 plays, and they wind up with a field goal to take a 3-0 lead out of Gano. Went from 53. But there's Hudson drawing a second down and 10 from the Buffalo 27, a false start penalty. And then next snap, 2nd and 15 from the Buffalo 32, offensive holding. Makes it a 2nd and 25 from the Buffalo 42. So think about it. They wound up losing 15 yards on 2 consecutive snaps because of 2 consecutive flags. So Hudson gets the gasser on offense, even though the Giants were still able to put points on the board and take the lead. On defense, O'Donnell Fortune, rookie free agent corner, gets the gasser here. And I don't think it's any surprise to you because he gave up the big play. The 58-yard completion that went to Tyrell Shavers. It was a 2nd and 3 from the Buffalo 36 with 15 seconds left in the first half. And it's man coverage. And Shavers beats Fortune on a 58-yard bomb. Now, at least Buffalo didn't get the touchdown out of it because Fortune got tangled up with Shavers down at the Giants' 6-yard line. And with 4 seconds to go, the Bills hit a field goal. So the Giants go into the half up 16-10 instead of 16-7. It's a preseason game, but in a regular season game, a big play right before the end of a half that results in points. That's a gut punch. You don't want those. And finally, on special teams, not going to give out any guesses on special teams. Simply put, I think they played extremely well yesterday. And with a 90-man roster that eventually is going to have to lose 37 guys in that one cut the next day following the third preseason game against the New England Patriots. You've got everybody and their uncles, aunts, and even great-grandparents playing on special teams. And so we're not going to flag any special teams gassers here. Hey, we're going to come back with another edition of the Big Blue Breakdown live, and that comes your way Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time here on the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel and Media Network. And that will be after the second of the 2-day practices with the New York Jets. No sense in coming back on Tuesday. There'll only be one practice in the books. I'd like to give you the complete wrap-up after both of the Giants and Jets practices have completed. We'll have all the complete analysis, your live phone calls, audio calls, video calls, and your chats here on the Big Blue Breakdown. Until next time, I'm Paul Dottino. So long, everybody.